picture something.
Yeah.
Something that feels, I don't know, super modern. You're closing a deal, maybe buying a huge shipment of silk.
Right.
You don't have sacks of gold on you, obviously. So you pull out a piece of paper, you write a few lines, you sign it, hand it over. Done.
Standard stuff. A Tuesday afternoon.
Exactly.
Right.
Except the year is 820 AD. You're in a bazaar in Baghdad.
Mm.
And that piece of paper, the recipient is going to cash it in Cordoba.
In Spain.
In Spain. That's an entire continent away.
And he'll do it without a single gold coin ever leaving Baghdad. No wire transfer, no internet, nothing.
This is what we're getting into today.
Yeah.
Because we usually think of, banking as this thing from Renaissance Italy, the Medicis in Florence, right?
Yeah, which is a great story, but it's about, 500 years too late.
That's it. Exactly. So today on our deep dive, we're heading into the House of Wisdom. We're going to explore how the Abbasid Caliphate didn't just, invent algebra. They basically engineered the operating system for the global economy.
And the really wild part, the thing that gets me, is they built this entire financial superpower on one core constraint: no charging interest.
Right.
And that's the hook. It's about how that rule, that constraint, forces innovation. If you can't make money from debt, how do you finance an empire? Well, the answer turned out to be this incredible system of risk sharing and trust that, honestly, you could argue is more advanced than some of what we have today.
So let's set that stage. Baghdad, early 9th century. I think when we hear ancient city, we picture, mud huts in a palace.
Oh, not even close. Under Harun al-Rashid, Baghdad was a machine. We're talking 500,000, maybe 1 million people.
1 million people.
Yeah, and you have to put that in context. At the same time, a city like London or Paris, maybe 20,000 people. They were basically villages. Baghdad had planned streets, running water, hospital. It was a metropolis.
And 1 million people have to eat. They have to trade.
Precisely. It's a logistical pressure cooker. You've got the Silk Road basically running through your city center, goods from China, spices from India, furs from Russia. It's the crossroads of the entire known world.
Which creates so much friction. I mean, how does a Jewish merchant from Spain buy something from a Buddhist trader from China in a city run by a Muslim caliph? How do they settle up?
That is the question. The sheer scale forced them to invent tools to smooth out that friction. But, before you can even get to banking, you have to solve the problem of money itself. And that starts with everyone's favorite topic.
Taxes.
Taxes.
Of course. And the sources point to this one guy, Abu Yusuf, who wasn't a banker. He was the chief judge. And he wrote this book around 798 AD, the Kitab al-Kharaj.
The Book of the Land Tax.
Which I got to say sounds like the most boring title in history.
It sounds dry, but it was absolutely radical. I mean, you have to understand taxation in most of the ancient world was just extraction. The king needs money, his soldiers go and shake down the farmers.
Until there's nothing left.
Right. And Abu Yusuf looked at that and said, this is profoundly stupid. You're destroying your own economic base.
So he was kind of an ancient supply-side economist.
He really was. He made this argument that taxes needed to be fair, predictable, and based on actual production capacity. If your land is irrigated and productive, okay, you pay a bit more. If it's rain-fed and risky, you pay less.
It's almost like a precursor to the Laffer curve, that idea that if you lower tax rates, you can actually increase total government revenue because people are incentivized to produce more.
That is precisely what he told the Caliph. If you give people stability, they'll invest, they'll produce more, the state will actually get richer in the long run. And it worked. It created this huge, steady river of cash flowing into the Beit al-Mal, the public treasury.
And that's the key link to banking, right? The Beit al-Mal wasn't just the Caliph's personal vault. It acted more like a central bank.
In a way, yeah. It would pump that money back into the economy. It paid for infrastructure canals, bridges, and welfare. It created this bedrock of economic stability. You can't have a complex banking system if everyone's worried the government might just seize their assets tomorrow. Abu Yusuf built the layer of trust that everything else was built on top of.
Okay, so we have a stable government, a booming economy, but we still have a sort of a hardware problem. We talked about writing a check, but what are you writing it on?
This is one of my favorite little details in all of this. If you're in Europe in 800 AD, you're writing on parchment. Animal skin. It's absurdly expensive and time-consuming to make.
You're not wasting a sheepskin on an IOU.
Exactly. But the Abbasids had this breakthrough. At the Battle of Talis in 751, they captured some Chinese prisoners of war. And some of those prisoners weren't just soldiers, they were artisans who knew the secret of making paper.
Wow. Talk about a world-changing moment of industrial espionage.
It changed everything. The Abbasids set up paper mills in Baghdad almost immediately. And suddenly you have this writing medium that's cheap, it's lightweight, and this is crucial. You can't really alter it without it being obvious.
Right. You can scrape ink off parchment, but not really off paper.
Right, so it makes forgery harder and bureaucracy cheaper, and that allowed for the explosion of the Sakk.
The Sakk, which sounds an awful lot like our word check.
It's the direct root of the word, and it worked in almost the same way. It was a payment order. But because paper was now cheap, it wasn't just for kings. Any merchant could use it. It completely decoupled the idea of money from heavy metal coins.
But let's dig into how that worked across, like, 1,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
A check to your neighbor is one thing, check to Cairo is another. The sources talk about the Suftaja, the bill of exchange.
This is where the real genius starts to show. So let's say you're that merchant in Baghdad. You need to pay someone 1,000 dinars in Cairo. You don't want to carry that gold. It's heavy. It's dangerous. Lots of bandits. So you go to a banker in Baghdad and you buy a Suftaja from him, a piece of paper that's worth 1,000 dinars, redeemable in Cairo.
Okay, but I'm guessing I don't pay 1,000 dinars for it.
Nope. You might pay, let's say, 990 dinars.
Okay, hold on. I pay 990, I get 1,000. That's a 10 dinar profit just for waiting. That sounds a whole lot like interest. And I thought riba, or interest, was the one big forbidden thing.
It looks like interest to our modern eyes, for sure. But the legal scholars at the time, they saw it differently. They weren't focused on the time value of money. They were focused on the risk.
The risk of what? The paper getting lost.
The risk of the whole transaction. See, in an interest-based loan, the lender takes on basically zero risk. They just want their money back plus a fee no matter what happens to you. That's what was seen as exploitative. With the Suftaja, the banker is taking on risk. The messenger carrying the bill could get robbed. Their partner bank in Cairo could go bust. That 10 dinar discount wasn't rent on money. It was a fee for service.
So it's more like an insurance premium.
That's a great way to put it. It was a fee for the service of safe transport and for taking on the risk of the journey. They framed it as a sale. You are buying money that exists in a different location. The price difference just reflects the risk of getting it there. It's a brilliant legal workaround.
So it monetized safety, not time.
Beautifully put. And the system that made all this invisible movement of money possible was called Hawala.
Hawala, which just means transfer.
Yeah. And it's this incredible trust-based network. So imagine you're not a big merchant. You're just a laborer in Baghdad, and you want to send money home to your family in Damascus.
Okay.
You go to a local money dealer, well done.
Yeah.
You give him your cash. He sends a coded message to his partner in Damascus, who then pays your family.
This is the part that blows my mind. No money actually moves between the cities, right?
Yeah.
How does the guy in Baghdad pay back the guy in Damascus?
Ideally, they don't. They just settle the books. Think of it like a giant decentralized ledger. That same day, there's probably a merchant in Damascus who wants to pay a supplier in Baghdad.
So they use that transaction to balance it out.
Exactly. They just net it out. I owe you 100, you owe me 90. At the end of the month, maybe only that tiny 10 dinar difference actually has to be settled, if that. Millions could move across the empire without a single coin leaving a city.
It's basically correspondent banking. It's what SWIFT does today between international banks.
It is the direct ancestor. But here's the difference. SWIFT is backed by treaties and international law. Hawala was backed by one thing and one thing only: reputation.
How did that work?
If a Hawalder failed to pay, word would spread through the network instantly. He'd be blacklisted, ruined. In a system built entirely on trust, losing your reputation was a death sentence. That social pressure was way more effective than any lawsuit.
A decentralized ledger based on social credit. Centuries before blockchain.
It really is. It proves you don't need a massive government entity to have a functional financial system. You just need a network of trust. So we've covered moving money around. But to have a true golden age, you need to create wealth. You need investment. And again, we hit that same wall. No interest-bearing loans. So if I have a great idea for a spice trading venture, but I'm broke, what do I do?
This is where I think their system actually becomes, in some ways, superior to ours. Because they couldn't use debt, they essentially had to invent venture capital. They called it Mudaraba.
Mudaraba. Okay, bring that down. How is that different from me getting a loan?
It's a partnership, not a loan. So let's say you're the wealthy investor. You have the capital. I'm the entrepreneur with the expertise. You give me the money. I take it, travel to India, buy spices, sail back, and sell them.
Okay. And if we make a profit?
We split it based on a ratio we agreed on at the start. Maybe 50-50, maybe you get 70% since you put up all the cash.
But here's the crucial question. What if the ship sinks? Or I get robbed? Or I'm just a terrible businessman and I lose everything.
In our modern debt system, if you took out a loan for that, you'd be ruined. The bank would come for your house, your assets. You bear all of the risk.
Right.
In a Mudaraba contract, if the venture fails through no fault of my own, bad luck, market crash, the financial loss is entirely yours. You lose your capital.
And what do you, the entrepreneur, lose?
My time, my labor, my reputation, which is huge, but, this is a key, I do not end up in debt to you for the rest of my life.
That is a fundamental psychological shift.
It changes absolutely everything. It perfectly aligns our incentives. If I just lend you money at interest, I don't really care if your business succeeds. I just care that you can pay me back. But in Mudaraba, I need you to succeed. We're in it together.
It encourages the investor to be a mentor, not just a lender.
Yes. To connect me with their network, to give me advice, because they only make money if I make money. It sounds just like the Silicon Valley VC model, right?
What is the VC model?
Exactly. But imagine if your whole economy ran on that principle, not just one sector. It created incredible opportunities for social mobility. A talented person with a good idea could actually get funding because the downside risk for them was manageable.
And these weren't just informal handshake deals, were they?
Oh, not at all. They were highly sophisticated legal contracts. The Venetians and other Italians later called them commenda contracts, but they were direct copies. They detailed the duration, the scope of the venture, profit calculations, everything.
So the lineage is direct. The Italians, who we usually credit with all this, they basically learned it from their trading partners in the Islamic world.
It's undeniable. They didn't just import spices from Alexandria and Acre, they imported the financial technologies used to trade those spices. The bill of exchange, the partnership contract, even the word check, it all migrated north and fueled the European commercial revolution.
So when we look at our world today, our credit cards, our wire transfers, our entire startup culture, we're really looking at the descendants of Abbasid innovation.
We absolutely are. But I think there's a deeper takeaway here, beyond just the history.
Let's go there. What's the lesson for us?
Well, we live in a world that is just drowning in debt. Student debt, consumer debt, sovereign debt. The whole system is built on this idea that money should automatically create more money through interest.
And when things go wrong, the losses often get socialized while the profits were privatized.
Precisely. The system that came out of the House of Wisdom offers a different model. It asks a powerful question. What would our economy look like if it were built on risk sharing instead of debt shifting?
So if banks acted more like partners in a venture rather than just landlords of money?
Yes. What if a mortgage meant the bank shared in the upside and the downside of your home's value? What if a business loan was just a share of future profits? It forces a kind of solidarity. It admits that economic life is risky and proposes that maybe we should face that risk together.
It's a really provocative thought. It feels like we optimized our entire system for speed and liquidity, but maybe we lost some of that shared humanity, that resilience along the way.
I think so. And it's funny, you look at things like decentralized finance or DeFi today, they're trying to build trust without a middleman. In a way, they're circling all the way back to the core principles of Hawala.
The technology always changes, but the fundamental human problem, how do I trust you with my value, that stays exactly the same.
It does. And looking back at 9th century Baghdad is just proof that there's more than one way to solve it.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. A huge thank you to you, the learner, for joining us. Hopefully the next time you tap your phone to pay for something, you'll think about the camels, the paper mills, and the risk-sharing merchants of the Golden Age.
It's been a real pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.